Welcome, everybody. My name is Jyoti Robertson, and I am Principal Consultant for JVR Shelter Strategies. And I am a veterinarian and a shelter medicine consultant. And we have Ross, who is no longer in a space lab.
And I'm Ross Mock, and I'm a statistician at JVR Shelter Strategies, and I'm also a programmer engineer in San Francisco who gets to work on projects that deal with animal behavior and welfare.
Yeah, so the two of us are going to spend a few weeks, I don't know, it could be longer, recording some videos to help animal welfare organizations think about data in new ways, and also just show how we present data when we're thinking about animal numbers, intake numbers, things like that. So I'm going to start by sharing our website. So, except I'm not sure you're able to see it. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So when you go to our website under services, this is shelterstrategies.com, there is a section that's called Shelter Statistics. And if we click on that, what you will see is a overview on statistics. And again, during these videos that we're recording, we're going to take you through some of the most commonly requested statistics.
Starting off right at the beginning there, we have length of stay calculations. And so what length of stay calculations are is just a difference in days between an intake date and an outcome date for any animal that comes into the shelter.
Yeah, and we can use length of stay for a lot of different things. I think it's a great data point to really see and determine if your processes are flowing well. Our goal is to keep animals in our system as short as possible and get them to a live outcome, get them into an adopter's home, into a foster home, perhaps transferred out. And so as we start looking at length of stay to outcome data, it will help us find any roadblocks that we may have in our processes that are holding up animals in our system.
And when we break that length of stay calculation down into the specific populations, the species, age, and breeds, we're able to track those length of stay more specifically to those populations. So where those slower tracks that maybe could be sped up a little bit, they're going to be more specific to an animal group or an intake group. And so those are some of the things that we look at when doing length of stay calculations.
Yep. The next section that we have outlined is staffing calculations. And this is very useful for people who are budgeting or requesting more full-time equivalent or part-time equivalent positions for their organizations, and using data for the different processes that happen, intake, cleaning, feeding, surgeries. We can make a determination of how much staff would be an appropriate number of staff in order to conduct these specific items in a reasonable amount of time. And it's helpful to also have it broken down by ages, perhaps by location in your shelter, by species, because you may have different staff for your cats or for your dogs. So we will be taking you through this process as well.
And not only those staffing calculations that are usually based on intake outcome in these singular one-time events, but we're also looking at in-shelter and foster daily animal counts. that's where we're able to go back in time and say how many animals were in the shelter at any given time, or how many were in foster at any given time. And so we're able to look back at that data and even break down that even further into those different groups to be able to say, oh, back on this date, there were this percentage of the population of the shelter was comprised of this intake group or this outcome group.
I think that's really going to be more important, especially now as more animals are going into foster. And hopefully after the current COVID-19 situation, we will still see a lot of animals being housed in foster situations. So tracking that information will be really, really important for understanding where our resources are best spent.
Jumping past surgery-related data for staffing required for surgery, which we'll talk about later, but space calculations, where you take into account the physical geometry of the organization, and then you can back calculate on the data that we're using for intake in our groupings of, let's say, adoption-driven capacity, transfer-driven capacity. Those are all taken from our flow-through groups that we mentioned up in length of stay and calculations.
Yeah. And this is really important for organizations that are looking to potentially build a new facility or renovate their existing facility. Really understanding how current space is being utilized, and then what is an appropriate number of housing units for the numbers of animals in their care will make a huge difference. What we don't want to be doing is overbuilding for extra capacity. We want to make sure a building is right sized. And really the best way to do that is by looking at historical information and the current data.
And of course, we calculate save rates and all other types of rates, which of course we'll go into more later.
Yep. So these are just the most common things that we'll be going over. We're also going to look at different systems, whether it be Chameleon, PetPoint, Shelter Buddy, Shelter Love, and how to pull data from different sections. So hopefully this will be informative to all of you, and we look forward to creating these videos and getting your feedback, having more of a conversation around statistics that's fun and exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.